Season 2 of Ninjago has always been a weird season. A lot of people really like it, since it is the final battle season. While there are some other fans that aren't the biggest fans of this season for a multitude of reasons. But of course, the most and biggest reason why is because of the filler episodes which happen at the start of the season. And for me, I'm sort of in the middle there. Some are definitely good parts of the season, while there are some episodes that I absolutely just hate. So anyway, today I am going to be ranking each one of these episodes in this beautiful tier list where we have 5 tiers: filler, ninja, okay, good, gooder, peak, and ultimate spinjitzu master, where we can only put the very best episode in at the very end. So with that being said, let's start off with the first episode, which is Darkness Shall Rise. So this episode is basically all about the ninja trying to save up for a house since the bounty was destroyed by the Devourer. And since none of the ninjas have had jobs before, they have to get jobs to make money to afford the rent. Cole became a security guard, Zane became a chef, Clyde became a human pinata, and Jay became a delivery man. So while Jay is on one of his deliveries, the Serpentine kidnapped him and left him on the tracks while they went to rob a bank. But the real reason why they robbed the bank was to divert the ninja away from Lloyd so they could take him, since they know Lloyd is the only thing that Garmadon truly cares about. And they do this all because at the start of the episode, a Garmadon convinces all of the Serpentine goons to join him. Anyway, as Gels enters the apartment, Wu and Nia come in and save the day, and this all gives the ninja a valuable lesson about how their only focus should be on Lloyd and training him, and they don't need a nice house to do that. So then the episode ends off with the ninja moving into a very small apartment, and Garmadon also creates a mega weapon in this episode, but we'll talk more about that with the later episodes. So overall, I give this episode a 6.5 out of 10, which puts it in the ninja okay tier. So not a strong opener for this season, but this episode is very useless in my opinion. Not much really changes from start to the end, and yeah, just overall quite a nothing episode, but it isn't horrible. And now we move on to episode 2, Pirates vs Ninja, and this just might be the worst episode of the entire season. It does start off with a flashback of Captain Soda and his crew on the bounty, where it then crashes into a rock, and this is important to the episode because Garmadon accidentally brings back the pirates after he crashes out over not being able to work out how to use the mega weapon properly. Anyway, the pirates then take over the bounty that Garmadon and the snakes are on, and then they set their sights on Ninjago City. But luckily, the ninja are in the area, and they are able to have a fairly easy fight to defeat them. And also during the fight, Lloyd gets stuck in a barrel, and he is able to perform spinjitzu for the first time, which is pretty cool. However, the best part of this episode is of course the introduction of the main man, the myth, the legend, the brown ninja Derek. So yeah, overall, other than the fact that the goat is in this episode, nothing much or interesting really happens, but it can be slightly fun at times. I mean, seeing the ninja fight pirates was fun. But yeah, this episode gets a 6 out of 10. So it is a passable episode. So it goes into the ninja okay tier. So the third episode of this season is a classic in my opinion, being the episode titled Double Trouble. So I do actually kind of like this episode a fair bit. I mean, we literally get to see the ninja fight their evil versions of themselves. We also get to see Lloyd take the center stage for one of the first times in the show, which was also really nice to see. But for the rest of the episode, it isn't really that great. We see the ninja get outplayed by a bunch of bratty kids, which was just very hard to watch because of how just incredibly stupid it was. But yeah, this episode is mostly a fun watch. Again, we get to see evil versions of the ninja, and Lloyd also gets a lot of focus as he goes from being trapped by the bratty kids to then convincing them to become good guys and help the ninja. So yeah, this was a very stupid but also a very fun episode. It definitely gives me early 2010s cartoon vibes, which I guess this episode technically is. So I'm fine with giving it a 7 out of 10, meaning it joins the good tier. And now on to another very fun episode, Ninja Ball Run. So I'm a very big F1 fan, and of course a huge Cars fan as well. So I do really like this episode for the racing. even though it can get very silly at times, as in the race the ninja are up against the skeletons from the underworld, the kids from the boarding school, and Jay's parents, and as the race goes on, the police and Serpentine join in as well, which is really stupid, but I really do like it. However, the reason the ninja entered the race in the first place is stupid. If you don't remember, Garmadon hires a demolition company to take down Dervis Dojo, which is stupid because to destroy it, he could just create like a tornado that takes out the dojo using his mega weapon. And it is also very stupid to think that the ninja just won't be able to train Lloyd without the dojo. Anyway, as I said, this is an extremely fun episode. There's a lot of tension in the race with tons of crashes, including ones to Lloyd and the Ultra Dragon, and also a huge one that takes out like half the competition, including the ninja for a bit. But of course, their plot armor keeps them okay. And then of course, at the end of the episode, Garmadon creates a hole in the ground using the mega weapon, so the ninja risk everything by jumping out of the radar and onto the jet. Nonetheless, this is one of my favorite classic Ninjago episodes to date. It definitely is not peak, but it is definitely tons better than Double Trouble, so it finds a nice spot in good tier with a solid rating of 8 out of 10. And yet, another fun episode we of course have is Child's Play, which again is another very stupid fun episode. So this episode starts out with Lloyd getting sidetracked while training when he sees some kids playing soccer, as he wants to have a childhood, but the ninja bring him back in right before they get called to the Museum of Ninjago, as Garmadon was currently there with the Serpentine. So the ninja get there while Garmadon starts to use the mega weapon to turn a skeleton of the Grundle back to life, and the Grundle is basically like a creature that is made to hunt ninja. Anyway, the ninja get mixed up in the spell and they get turned into kids. This then leads the ninja to learn how Lloyd really feels, as no one listens to them since they are kids. And while the ninja get to grips of being kids, Nia and Wu go to Miss Darkgate to find a tea to bring them back to age. And they bring this tea to them right as the Grundle finds the ninja, and Lloyd gets trapped behind a counter, so unfortunately for him, he gets stuck in the middle of the tea's magic spell, and along with the ninja, he gets older as well. So this is not only a pretty fun episode, it is also very important to the overall plot of the season. But as I said, this episode did just have so much stupid stuff going on, so I can't put it any higher than a 7 out of 10. So yeah, good tier it is. And to complete the quadruple of just fun Ninjago episodes, we have Wrong Place, Wrong Time. So this was of course Ninjago's time traveling episode, and who doesn't love time travel? So the whole goal of the ninja's time traveling was to prevent Garmadon from preventing them becoming ninja, thus preventing them being able to train Lloyd to become the Green Ninja, thus preventing Garmadon from having to fight Lloyd in the final battle. Simple, right? Anyway, a lot happens in this episode. The ninja go from giving Parcera a heart attack to then kidnapping Nia and giving her to the skeletons, and then fighting the Garmadons, and then finally destroying the mega weapon using the golden weapons that Jay somehow found, and then shooting them up into space, which of course was a plot point in season 3. Also, one thing that I thought was quite cool about this episode was that every time something significant happened while the ninja were in the past, a photo of them from the future would either reappear or disappear, which was a really nice touch. And I think it may also be a reference to the Back of the Future movies, but I haven't seen them in like 10 years, so forgive me if I'm just completely wrong there. Anyway, this episode was just very entertaining, and it also did get rid of the mega weapon, meaning the whole mega weapon slash filler episode saga could finally end. So yeah, this is a 8.5 out of 10 episode. And you know what? The top of this list is kind of looking a little bit empty at the moment, so I think we're gonna have to put this episode in peak. Now let's move on to the first episode that actually kind of has something to do with the final battle part of the season. So the next episode is called The Stone Army, and let me tell you this episode is great for 2 reasons. It is a fun watch just like the last 3 episodes, but it also has relevance to the main story as well. So this episode starts with Garmadon taking the Serpentine to find the Dark Island, and then the ninja get a call from the museum because their statues have come alive due to the Devourer's venom. This episode is also the episode where we get to meet Misako for the first time. Speaking of Misako, she reveals the story of the Overlord and how he is on the Dark Island and all that, while standing right beside an endless hole, I may add. And now we finally get into the fun part of this episode. So it just happens that on the same day the ninja visit the museum is also unveiling a humongous statue of a stone warrior, and that stone warrior comes alive just like the smaller ones and wreaks havoc on the museum. The ninja try to fight it, but it is huge and indestructible, so no surprise that they failed. So then Lloyd comes up with a master plan and is actually very good, I like it. So he leads the Stone Warrior to the endless pit that I mentioned before, and the stupid giant walks right into it and falls down. But I guess Misako must have been lying when she said that this hole was endless, because in Season 4, we do see this Stone Warrior locked up in Cryptarium Prison. But my favourite part of this episode has to be when Scales throws Garmon out of the helicopter. So altogether, this episode is pretty good, so I'll give it a solid 8 out of 10. It definitely could be higher, but the entire episode for the most part did only take at one place, and that was a museum, and that kind of lets this episode down a little bit. But yeah, again, this episode is an 8 out of 10, which means it lands in the very poorly named gooder tier. So moving on to the next episode, the day Ninjago stood still. So this was another very cool one. The entirety of Ninjago experiences a major earthquake that literally makes 30 feet plot holes in the middle of the road, all due to the entire Overlord stock of Stone Army warriors coming back to life, which then also leaves the entire Serpentine trapped inside a tomb again, which is really funny. So anyways, I said the Stone Army are creating disasters all throughout the city, and they practically take the entire city over, as there are just so many of them for the ninja to deal with. So they resort to evacuating everyone onto the Destiny's Bounty. So they park the bounty at the top of the NGTV news building, and as they are about to leave, Misako realizes she left her bag on the stairs. So she runs back to get it, and Wu follows her, and then once they retrieve it, they get backed up by a few stone warriors. So they then proceed to jump out of the window, and luckily the bounty was just coming around the corner at just the right time to pick them up. So yeah, this episode was pretty decent. However, not much happened in this episode. The Stone Army appeared, then the ninja briefly tried to fight them, and then they failed, and then they retreated. But I do like this episode, so I will give it a 7.5, so it also goes into gooder tier. And now we have another very cool episode, The Last Voyage. So this episode starts with the ninja saying goodbye to the people that they just rescued in the previous episode before they embark on their journey to the Dark Island. And while on this long journey, the ninja get a visit from some creatures called Star Teeth, which kindly climb aboard the bounty and start eating the sails and the side of the ship, and also JP's himself. So after barely surviving, they end up getting washed up right next to a random lighthouse in the middle of nowhere. And guess what? The person that lives in this lighthouse just so happens to be the inventor that created Zane, Dr. Julian. What are the chances? And I can't lie, when I first watched this episode, I thought that Dr. Julian was going to be like a bad guy in some sort of way, and 10 years later, I still got the same vibe when watching this episode. Anyway, Julian lets them into the lighthouse, Jay steals some underwear, and he then needs to put it to use straight away as he gets tea spilt on him by a robot. Dr. Julian then starts to get to work on fixing up the bounty, and once he finally does that, the ninja are ready to leave, but they get halted by the Leviathan. Zane then jumps into the water and frees it, letting him go. So this episode was just alright. It wasn't bad, but it certainly wasn't special. It was cool to see Zane's dad, but other than that, it was a really nothing episode. So we get a 7 out of 10 rating, which welcomes it into the good tier. And now on the next episode, and the ninja are finally on the Island of Darkness, and that just so happens to be the title of our next episode. So in this episode, the ninja need to find the Temple of Light so they can get what they need to take the fight to the Stone Army. So it is of pivotal importance for them not to be seen. So what do the ninja immediately do? They get found by every single stone warrior on the entire island, all because Zane had to rescue his mechanical bird friend. But luckily, they managed to escape, but in the most OG Ninjago way possible, as they grab wooden planks and use their spinjitzu to gain height so they can then jump across trees that somehow manage to hold their weight, and they finally use hoods as parachutes to ensure a safe landing. Creative? Yes. Realistic? No. But it is Ninjago, so what are we expecting? Anyway, the ninja did somehow manage to find the location of the Dark Island despite all of the commotion, so they then use the new vehicles made by Nia to scale the mountain. They then strike the bell, gain new blades and suits, and then obliterate the stone army. And to be honest, this Temple of Light scene genuinely might be my favourite scene from this entire season. So this episode easily gets an 8 out of 10, so good tier it is. And now we move on to an even better episode, The Last Hope. The last hope being that the ninja could potentially stop the final battle by placing Garmadon's helmet on the clock. So, to get the helmet, the ninja plan to dress up as stone warriors and take Misako to Garmadon so she can take the helmet, which she does manage to do. But the ninja wouldn't be the ninja without, of course, being caught for the second episode in a row, I may add. But luckily, Nia comes just in time and rescues them with the Earth Driller, where they then drive to the clock with the helmet in hand. They then try to find the resting spot for the helmet, but the Stone Army comes to crash the party, and they end up not being able to place the helmet fast enough to prevent the final battle. They were too late, and to make matters worse, Garmadon takes Nia, and the ninja are left helpless. So this episode has to be my favourite so far, as it gets another 8.5 out of 10. It had the perfect balance of fun, story importance, and tension. It's an absolutely peak episode. And now we have the penultimate episode, Return of the Overlord. So much happens in this episode, and it is completely action-packed. The ninja first charge into the Stone Army base just to find it empty. Then Lloyd manages to find time to do an outfit change right before they all run to the end of the island to catch up with the Stone Army. And while they run there, they reminisce about their past adventures before they come face to face with evil Nia. The four ninjas stay back to fight her, while Lloyd, Wu, and Misako continue following the track. It does take a while, but the ninja managed to take care of Nia and managed to catch up to the others. And now we get on to the best part of this episode. The Overlord takes over Garmadon's body and makes him look extra creepy. Like, I genuinely remember being so scared of this when I was younger. Anyway, the ninjas start fighting, and Lloyd has his first proper fight against the Overlord, while he also tries to help his dad fight the Overlord's possession. But unfortunately for Lloyd, he gets overpowered and also gets injured. And then the Overlord and co escape to Ninjago City. So this episode is almost perfect, which is exactly why I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. So it also goes into peak tier and is currently the top contender for the coveted Ultimate Spinjitzu Master tier. But we still have one more episode to go. And of course, the episode left the challenge for the Ultimate Spinjitzu Master tier has to be the episode Rise of the Ultimate Spinjitzu Master. So here we start with the Overlord taking over Ninjago City, but Derev tries to stop him. But with no surprise, Derev epically fails. We then see the ninja stuck on the island with no chance of getting back to Ninjago, especially with Lloyd now having a broken leg. However, they still have a small bit of hope left, and they go back to the Temple of Light, where they find the first Spinjitzu Master's golden mech. And just as they find that, the Ultra Dragon comes to the rescue, and now they are ready to take the fight to the Overlord. By the time they get back to the city, it is consumed by darkness, and the Overlord's metamorphosis is now complete. The ninja make their way to the tower and start fighting the Stone Army, but they quickly get outnumbered. But just in time, Derev comes across the Stone Army helmet, and that makes the entire Stone Army freeze. And he then tells them to run up the stairs that are for some reason outside the building, but Nia hits them all off. The Then the ninja start to climb the stairs, but one by one, they get hit by the Overlord's dark matter, turning them evil, until it is just left with Lloyd to face off against the Overlord. He then starts to fight, and then he quickly turns into the ultimate Spinjitzu master, and which turns him gold. He then makes his golden dragon go into the Overlord's mouth and blows him up. The city is partly destroyed, but everyone is all safe, and Lloyd finally got to see his real dad free of evil for the first time. So this episode is also almost perfect. I don't think the ending scene could have been really any better, especially when it was supposed to be the last scene of Ninjago ever. However, the only thing that brings this episode down is the final battle. It is a little bit short, there isn't too much action, and Lloyd seems to take care of it very easily. So, for this reason, I'm only going to give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. It goes in the peak tier, but it does mean that Return of the Overlord takes the top spot. So this is my Ninjago Season 2 episode tier list / mini review kind of. And if you didn't know, I did actually make a video like this for Season 1 of Ninjago a little while ago. So if that interests you, I recommend you watch that one here. And of course, see you later, be ninja.